Yo, 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 what is going on, RoK Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder, and we're doing a little bit of, I guess, a night-ish. It's just a little dark here for the lighting. We'll make it work. Okay, today we're going to be touching on how to communicate efficiently and effectively in RoK. And we're going to be showing you some mail examples from actually the current kingdom that we're in, which just surprisingly happens to be our 5th or 6th day here on the Jump Project. But I'm going to also show you some examples on how to send what I think to be kind of good organized Discord mails, how to do some King's mails, and we're going to go over some do's and don'ts when you're sending mails and how to essentially communicate effectively and efficiently with every single member in your kingdom to get the most out of the mails and the information that you're sending, which also has a huge factor into your conversion rate for one, player retention, the amount of activity you're going to receive, and then also how many people will read the mail and just do the things that you are asking or hoping, I should say, and/or hoping for people to do. Before we get started, as always, if you enjoyed the content, make sure you sub, like, ring the notification bell, and if you want to join and be a part of our conversation, you can hit the Discord in the link down below and pin comment. Okay, so let me first and foremost start off by saying I am a big believer in the power of words and how important sending announcements are for your entire player base. The fact is the only pure way to actually reach every single player in the kingdom is by sending a King's Mail. Coincidentally, the most effective way to really reach people outside of when it comes to quality per person, not necessarily volume per person or volume of everyone in the kingdom, is you send them a direct message, right? That's pretty much the most likely surefire way you're going to have the fastest chance to get a response. But when it comes to the volume of trying to send information to the most amount of people, King's Mail is the way to go. Okay, with some of those kind of standard disclaimers out of the way, let me show you a couple examples of what I think are some kind of pros and cons to doing King's Mail. So in the current kingdom we're in right now, I'm just going to show you the most recent mail. I actually like this mail because, one, you have what I consider to be a heading or a header 1. You have a kind of header 2 or title 2, right? So you have, hey, this is an announcement, though to be fair, everything's an announcement. So I don't know if I would necessarily go with announcement, but I'm not really going to dock the points off for kind of being redundant because I do like the fact that, one, it is in the biggest letters, even if it's only by a couple sizes. It is in colors that scream, hey, this is important. But even more than that, there's spacing in between, which I really appreciate because I'm a big fan of spacing, and I think it allows for a mail to not look like a wall of text, which when you look at this mail, even though it's short, it does not come off as a wall of text. It actually comes off very readable. Now, I don't know if we really needed to kind of go with the italicized font here, but that could just be personal preference. I don't think that's really going to impact, so to speak, as many people reading it or not reading it. But you can see here, right, this is just an example. They say past glory, they give you some information, and then they give you tips. Donating, right, not using gems. If you have farm accounts, please make sure to use those in donates. All right, let's finish stage 1 early. And they're basically giving you information on stage 1. I myself would have added a little bit more here towards the end. I would have said stage 2 tips, right, if there's any prep. Stage 3 if there's any prep. If no prep is actually needed, then maybe just say, hey, we'll send another mail out when stage 2 hits and stage 3 hits. There's a few other ways. I'm also a big fan of, if you're going to take the time to send King's Mails, no matter what, you should always, always, always include your kingdom Discord. No matter what. You need to include important things. And even if you do it at the very bottom or at the very top, right, and you say just something as simple as resources, right, or kingdom resources at the very bottom. If it's almost like just something you just include as almost like a signature, and in there you have most importantly, the Kingdom Discord. You have one or a few people you can contact if you want to get a link to the Discord, right? Because some people may just find it easier to reach out to someone to get an invite. Maybe they just don't know how to join the server with the code, but they do know how to add people. The idea is to try and cover your basis all around. So I think doing that is extremely important. If maybe you have specific reps or someone for certain positions, right? Maybe you include that. But I think most importantly, the number one thing that should be included in every single King's Mail is a link to your Kingdom Discord and letting people know what they can get on the Discord, even if you do it in a short version, right? And so you can make the argument maybe that's a separate mail, but like I said, at least include that. Then from there, I think when you're sending mails out, when it comes to how we communicate, when the information that we're looking at, you should really be sending a variety of mails. You should, if you really want to do a great job at communicating with your base and connecting with them a lot more, you need to focus on diversifying, educating, and informing your player base. Don't just send them updates on what's happening. Send them good information, right? Teach them about things. Really educate them. Take time to inform. Let them know, hey, here's all the events in the game, right? Here's a couple mails you can favorite by clicking the star at the bottom of this mail. It should be in the bottom middle between translate and delete, right? Really give them those kinds of walkthrough instructions and make it so effortless that anyone could understand it, right? That's probably number two. And when it comes to the types of mails, everything, right? Tell them how to min-max events, all the events that are coming up, right? What events do you save gems for, right? Give them tips on how to level commanders. Hey, if you're free to play, low spend, mid spend, high spend, right? Maybe focus on priorities of, hey, these are commanders you should focus on, right? Here's an equipment guide. Here's the best ways to grind equipment, right? Here's the days and times that maybe we do weekly events on the Discord server. Here's what we do for barb hunting and barb chaining events, right? Maybe this is when we're doing forts on this day, or we're doing encampments, or, anything, right? Take the time to really think outside the box and treat your kingdom almost as though they are subscribers, right? It's like you're running a magazine company and you have a subscriber base and you're trying to think about how to always keep them engaged, how to keep them active, how to keep the amount of subscribers going up and the overall amount retained for as long as possible. That is really how you have to kind of look at managing a kingdom as a whole. But more importantly, when we're just specifically talking about mailing, communicating, this is really how you have to look at the position, right? Or how you have to look at what you're doing here. And mails factor so much into what we do as a kingdom and how far that reach can extend for how much engagement we can get from them. So, and just to give you an example, right? I mean, you could even see here, like I like some of the mails from 2586 where spaced, right? Sure, I would love to maybe see something here like a header. I like how they're bolding and coloring certain words in the points, right, to try and highlight a main thing. Right, I probably would have said, like, if you look at this, your alliance will designate a rally leader, I would probably highlight designate a rally leader, just to define the sentence a little bit. Right, I probably would have done something here, not just write Q&A, but kind of either do like a bold underline, maybe a different color. Maybe I do some bullet points here. Right, I think it's important to try and break. Like I would break this up too. One answer, I would have put a space in between this. I wouldn't have just had it like that, or I would have identified the numbers and diversified the answers. Maybe you do blue for that, red for that. Right, just things that make it easier to read, and it's less time consumption your eyes are doing, so players can get to the information and navigate what you're sending them faster. That's really important. Again, this is all right, I guess, kind of more so comes off as a wall of text. But, again, my thing is, if you're going to send a King's Mail, I really believe that in most cases, you should really try to utilize all of the characters possible, even if you're just making the characters bigger, right? If you think about using all the characters, you can use all the characters with 1,000 characters or 500 characters, or all of them, which I think is 2,000, right? And it just depends on the size of the font that you're using and how many characters you want to utilize in that mail, right? For how much you want people to scroll. I'm actually a big fan of increasing font size, right? If and when needed, and I think if and when necessary, because sometimes I feel like you can get more out of it if people can read the font a little bigger. Maybe they're not squinting as much. That I think can actually have some positive effects. And here we go, right? You can see a little formatting miss up there. Again, that happens sometimes, but then they kind of double backed and sent it again. I don't necessarily know if I would kind of go with this. To me, it just seems like a wall of text. Why not break this up into 2 or 3 lines, right? Just to show you some examples. Okay. So that's my kind of take when it comes to King's Mails. Let me talk about Discord announcements now. And I'm just going to use my announcements as an example because this is honestly how I like to do them. And let me, so if I can, right, let me do this. Let me just do a little, that doesn't look solid. Let's do, I guess it technically doesn't matter, but we'll go here. We'll just do Discord. I'll just scoot this over. All right. So let me show you this, right? This is an example of how I like to do mails, right? You can see that here's my high a little bit. I get into my number points, and then I have my title. I give a little bit of information here on each, and then we move on to the next. Depending on what kind of needs to be formatted, how we go about that, you can even see previous mails, right? With the exception of certain things, you notice there's a lot of consistency in how a mail is sent. And I think that's important because if you're not, I think it's important to be consistent when it comes to how we send mails and consecutive mails, where we're not like really changing up the script, but we're more so adapting what we're saying and how often and how we're writing and what the inclusions are for those mails. But you can see here, right? I mean, even if you just look at engagement is great, right? Because mails are pretty easy to understand. There's not a lot of text in each of the points, and it's split up and spaced out, right? Consistent engagement here. I mean, I'm to be honest, I love this group, man. It's like really, like, this is just a little side note, but again, you're noticing what you're seeing here that's very consistent in how readable and how easily digestible it is. And that's something that I think is a really important thing when it comes to how we're viewing what we're sending or how we're sending it, how we're delivering it. Probably the next biggest point I'm going to give you, next biggest tip, is try to stay away from what I would consider, I don't know if they're conjunctions, but essentially in short, the words you would use that have apostrophes. So if you're using acronyms, try to stay away from acronyms, try to stay away from, right, unless you've used them, the full spelt out version a few times, then that's different. Or if you're going to write it out and then use acronyms after if you mention it again. And for example, you don't want to use don't, you'd rather use do not. And the reason why is because you have to consider when people are translating. Try to use native words in your language that are in their most simplest form. Because the more you do that, the easier it will be for people that are in your kingdom that do not speak the native language to translate and understand. And then it's less questions they have to ask, arguably less frustration they may have. And if they can't read your King's Mails and arguably participate in as much of a capacity as they'd like, they might leave. They might just stop playing. They might migrate out. So mails have a bigger impact, I think, in a kingdom's overall development and sustainability than probably most people really give them credit for. So that is it for me. And again, this kind of gives you my crash course on what I think is good to do mails. And you can apply these same systems to alliance mails. You know, you can DM players, copy pasted templates as well when it comes to that. There's a lot of ways to really reach your player base, especially because you can now message, I think it's the top 1,000. I'm not sure if they expanded that at the time of this video, but you can also do things like that to engage with people, right? To even just think about kind of getting more conversion onto the Discord, right? Just to kind of give a little pro tip here at the end. But yes, that covers pretty much a lot of what I wanted to talk about in this video, because oftentimes I don't really read, sometimes what I would consider to be good quality mails that are really hitting home. And I don't know what other kind of mails they send out here, so I can only go off of a few, at least in the example I'm giving from this current kingdom. But I hope that me taking the time to explain to you my thought process, what I consider to be good, and how impactful sending good mails, writing good quality mails can really be for your kingdom as a whole. And a lot of times it can tell players if your kingdom is serious or if you're just a bunch of trolls, right? It can tell you if you're professionals or you're amateurs. With that being said, that is it for me. I would love to hear your thoughts, right? Have you been in a kingdom that you think writes really good mails? Do you maybe after watching this think to yourself, man, I probably need to step my game up or step our game up and maybe start writing, taking it seriously to really write some quality mails up? Or are you somewhere where they just don't do that at all? And maybe you notice how impactful that is, right? I'd love to hear that, especially is how do you find that it's more or less impactful depending if the mail is written good or bad? And have you noticed it shown in any way from how players respond whether it's verbally or in their actions, right? Whether they stay, they leave, they move. I would really love to hear anything and everything in those comments down below, even though I'm pretty much saying all this from the dark. So as always, I hope you guys enjoyed the content. That is it for me. Until next time, I'll catch you later.